Well, here we are again today. I hear a little tingle ding ding ding. Here comes my little buddy. Oh, okay. Come on. Ah, here we go. Take a look at that. Want to take a look? No? Want to look over there? Camera? No? Okay. But anyway, finally finished putting this radio back together. Back in 1957, it was a simpler time, definitely. And this radio, made in 57, by Wards, which they really don't do. They don't make their own stuff anymore. They sort of, have other brands. Wards is actually still around online. In fact, if you look on my computer screen, I do have that up there. You can actually order stuff from Wards still. So they're in business since 1872, I think it was, maybe earlier. But yeah, back in 57, I remember back in 57, my dad was making, well, number one, he was a lone wage earner. We had my grandmother and grandfather living with us permanently. That was not a temporary thing. They lived with us. My mother and father, and us 3 boys. So there were 7 people in that house. My dad at the time was working for Pacific Gas and Electric. He was making $51 a week. So bi-weekly he had a $102 paycheck for half the month. So basically $200 a month is what he got. Well, after taxes, we still were paying taxes then too. It's quite a bit less. So you definitely had to stretch your money a lot farther then in 57. Cost of living was down, of course. It was a lot less than it is now. This radio then was still a pretty good chunk of change for the time to buy this radio, but it was still one of the simpler ones that Ward had at the time. It's basically a no-frills model. All you've got is a volume control and a tuning control. That's it. There's no extra tone controls or no special things on it. It's only AM, amplitude modulated. Back then there was no frequency modulated radios at the time. Back then everything was analog. There was nothing digital then, of course, like we have today. You can go through the whole list of things we didn't have back then. But yeah, this radio was definitely one of the, this is actually one of the base models is what they had. And but what the heck, here we are, 2020, this radio still works, still looks fine. Sure, I've replaced some of the parts in it, but most of the tubes are all still the same. Even some are still Wards tubes. So Wards was making its own tubes on top of its own radio, so, which they don't do anymore. But yeah, go figure. So yeah, see what else has happened back then. Let's see. Well, my grandfather didn't pass away till 58, so yeah, I was 7 years old back then. But yeah, things are a little bit different back then. But yeah, we had no color TV. We did have a black and white set. We didn't have color, I think, until the 60s, actually. But I remember a big old console TV set actually was from 1948. It was a Dumont from 1948, of all things. And at that time, we only got 3 stations. That's all there were. I mean, locally, where I lived there in El Cerrito, California, we're like 10 miles across the bay from San Francisco, but the only stations we could get were in San Francisco and Oakland. That was it. And so we had like a whole 3 stations. That's all you got to choose from. for your radio wasn't much better. About the same thing. We did have KGO was out. A few others were around, but still not very many stations at the time. So anyhow, I'll show you this one. I talked long enough. Mr. Doggy is getting heavy. And I mowed my lawns and everything before 11 o'clock this morning. So I got everything done. Let's see, what are we going to do here? Oh my god. Well, I'm going to drop this thing down. You can see the radio then. And there's the radio. As it sits. Let's see, do we want to make it bigger? Yeah, that's okay. Anyhow, so I had to wire up the back, of course, and all that. But let me turn this on here. I did polish the case up a little bit. Still not that great, but I have to run a polisher over or something. I did clean up the bezel on it and all that. So let's see here. It does take a while to warm up, though. I will tell you that.
We'll communicate with creditors and the credit bureaus on your behalf to address unfairly reported items like late payments, collections, charge-offs, and even bankruptcies, which can lead to a higher credit score. Our proven process has helped hundreds of thousands of people just like you see meaningful...
And
the last 6
my tuning string works, of course. Works fine.
800-368-4857 now and get your free credit.
That's kind of far away. Mexican station.
Studio today, Sheriff Darren Balaam is with us. Sherry Hill from Sage International. During the special...
Not much there. Don't have very many stations, but that's where we got them. But
Health organization recommends use of non-woven fabric. Don't be fooled by
Vikings fans, and Eagles fans, and Packers fans, and basically any...
that's about it. There's not very many AM stations around
and
here.
now they're going to...
So...
14-day money-back guarantee, and prices start at $24.99 for a 50
So anyway,
that's less than 50 cents per mask. And if you go to thekingofmasks.com now, you will get 30% off plus free shipping on your second pack. Offer expires at the end of the week.
It was an easy radio to work on. Probably one of the easiest I've ever worked on.
Don't delay. Go
very
to
few parts.
thekingofmasks.com now to stock
Kind of
up
like the
on
TV sets
high-quality masks.
Madman
Go
Months
to
used to put together. He put them together with fewer parts than anything else. So anybody else and still got the TV set to work. Well, I think that's what this thing was. It's running on very few parts. I mean, it's, well, let's see. There's a total I replaced in there. That's it. That's all it had in there for capacitors. Every single one of them replaced. Like I said, the only thing that's not replaced was the one domino cap. It looked like it had a split in it, but it still worked fine. So that's what it's playing with right now. So anyhow, that's going to be it for this radio. It's going to be another one that's going to go with my collection. So that'll be it for now. See you guys later. Everybody stay safe.